Hello everyone, Daniel here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, we are back with season 2 of Interview with a Vampire. This is episode 1. What can the dam really say to the damned? We do have a small programming note from the people over at AMC. Uh, Delaney Hales has now taken over the role of Bailey Bass, replacing the role that she was playing Claudia. So keep that in mind. I think I did do a little bit of researching. It seems that there were multiple reasons for Bailey's departure, but nothing out there that I can see is concrete. So we'll talk about Delaney's performance as well. So we're gonna get into this. Let me give you before we go into any details. Let me talk about the cast. And we'll talk a little bit about the spoiler-free review, and then we'll get into details. So we have Jacob Anderson as Louis, Sam Reed as Lestat, Eric Bogosian as Daniel Malloy, the interviewer. We have, like I mentioned, Delaney Hales, introduced as Claudia. And this is a spoiler from last season. Assad Zaman has been revealed to be Armand. He was revealed in the last episode of the last season. So, quick note: if you haven't seen last season, I will go into spoilers now for that, just to kind of set up the timeline and the time frame and to set up the episode as well. So in the last episode, we got two big things that happened. Of course, Armand was revealed to be who he had been pretending to be the assistant to Louis, but now we know that that's not the case. Also, in the storyline, in the past storyline, Louis and Claudia seem to have killed off Lestat. Now we get an inclination, and we get a reveal that that's not also the case. Lestat isn't really dead, so we who knows what expects the gang this season. So I guess if you read the book, you probably have a lot of inclinations. So let's get into it. We're gonna talk about this episode, which was overall pretty great. Like, we have a quick recap of everything that happened at the beginning of the season or last season. We also have the note about the change in portrayal, which I think is good because you definitely sometimes when shows are not upfront about this, it's like something that is distracting to the viewer, right? But now that you told me about it, I'm not gonna be wondering throughout the whole first episode, oh, what happened? Or I'm not gonna be Googling what happened during the episode. So um, this episode is out on AMC Plus and should be out by the time this comes out. Should be out in cable and as well on AMC if that's how you watch it. Let's get into spoilers. So if you haven't seen the episode, come back once you've seen the episode, so we can talk about everything that happened here. If you're a book reader, do let me know if there are some changes or more changes in the comments because I always find that very interesting. Not interesting enough to read the book myself, but definitely very interesting when book readers point those things out. So, as we see, Claudia and Louis are traveling through Europe. They're looking for other vampires. So, of course, they would go to the old continent where you would think there would be more vampires, right? Louis has been very conflicted about what he did to Lestat. He's also been hallucinating Lestat. And I think Sam Reed delivers a really fun performance as this, like, ghost version of Lestat. In the insight of the show, like at the end of the show, they do a little insight. Sam Reed talks about how his performance was trying to mimic almost Jacob's performance of Louis, because obviously this is a version of Lestat that lives within Louis' head. So it's kind of like an idealized version of Lestat as opposed to just the real version, right? So there's a little bit maybe of Louis that's already been infused in the character. So that was really fun. They make it to Romania. They are going through war-torn Europe. Uh, they are very careful with how they navigate things. Of course, they have to travel throughout the night. There's a really cool sequence where they take out a soldier that's already kind of dying, and then Claudia just throws a heart over to Louis. That was really, like, it looks super gnarly. So I like that because they are vampires, they're not afraid to do stunts all throughout the episode. This is obviously, it's not really like an action show, but it definitely has some action sequences that just end up, because of the nature of vampire and their abilities, like it ends up looking really cool on the screen. Obviously, a lot of this stuff is shot at night, so it really helps with making sure that things look great and they can do things as practical as possible. But even when there's some like VFX added on top of that, it's hard to notice because of the night shoots really help mask some of that stuff. I gotta say, Delaney Hales really picked up the role of Claudia just off and running. I think she's great. I really enjoyed Bailey's performance as well in last season, but she didn't miss a beat, so that's really really cool. So they make it to Romania and they meet a woman named Emilia who brings them into like the uh, brings them to this factory where people are taking refuge. Right, like I mentioned, they're in war torn Europe at the time. There's still Russian soldiers occupying the space. As Claudia goes off to play with the children, Louis stays back and collects information. So they're both kind of finding, well, in fact, finding missions about these vampires or clues that will lead them to vampires, but each in their own style. Um, we do notice throughout the episode that people in this town are trying to ward off vampires, right? They're hanging garlic in the doors. They hang crucifixes. Now, obviously, we as viewers know that these aren't things that really work on vampires, but obviously, the superstition, the town is really giving a lot of clues that there's something else going on. So Claudia goes to into the woods as the children are playing a game, and they like dare you to go out into the woods by yourself. And she sees something. She sees something that appears to be a vampire. This creature attacks her, so she's not really sure what's going on. They go back. Now, after we come back, we see that Emilia had been going out, and she actually came back and was bit um, by something. We don't know exactly what it is. Now, obviously, because the soldiers are also superstitious, they kill her, and really, really messed up. Like Emilia was somebody that was kind of holding that place together. So you always hate to see a character that's been set up as a good person, kind of have to be taken out in such a dumb way, um, because I don't think you don't die from just the vampire bite, and you don't turn right. We know that in order to turn, you also have to drink their blood, right? So uh, next we get to see that Claudia and Louis, after this happens, they set up kind of like bait for this other vampire, so that it'll draw it out and then they can see what's going on. Now, throughout this whole episode, they've been a little bit distant. Their relationship has definitely not been mended since what happened in the end of season one. Yeah, they call it a revenant vampire at the end of the show, or a zombie vampire, I believe it's called in the book. Maybe it's the other way around. Uh, Either way, this vampire looks super gnarly. It doesn't like it's not human looking like the vampires that we've seen throughout the show. And then this vampire attacks Louis. Claudia goes out to help him out, ends up ripping its eyes out. Once again, another really gnarly stunt. And then we have a female vampire that shows up, who is acting like the vampire's mother, like this revenant's mother, because he has lost his eyes, and it looks like these vampires can't really regenerate. She kills him to take it out of its misery, and then they go back to a castle. They end up following this other female vampire. Now, Claudia's pretty excited because they have found another vampire, and that was a whole mission of going over to a different country. So the new vampire, named Desiana, I believe, um, she begins to act like she's going to leave with them and travel with them, but then she just ends up throwing herself into the fire. Like that was, it kind of came out of nowhere, and this kind of shattered Claudia, right? Because they had finally found some other vampires, and she ends up learning the lesson that as a vampire, you're really pretty much on your own. So as they leave, they're in a caravan for France. In the last scene, we see Louis very earnestly tell Claudia that if they don't ever find any other vampires, she is enough. But then, as we pan out, we see that the vision of Lestat is sitting next to Claudia. So, like in my head, I'm thinking, is he telling Claudia that she's enough, or is he telling Lestat? Like, who is he really addressing in that time, right? Because obviously this is all going in his mind. So, um, I will say throughout the show, of course, we flash back to the interview with Daniel Malloy. Um, Armand is being very antagonistic towards Daniel because he wants to make sure that the interview falls within his purview as opposed to he's protecting Louis. And I think Louis, as we've seen, has a lot of issues with his memory and recollecting all these facts and maybe even opening up some old wounds. So I think Armand, as of now, it seems like he's trying to protect them from that, while Daniel Malloy, he's a very experienced reporter. He definitely knows exactly what's going on, right? He knows when he's being derailed. He knows when they're lying to him. He knows when they're hiding stuff from him. So, I mean, Eric Bogosian, he's just a fantastic actor. So yeah, I really like that. We get to see a little bit more of Louis and Armand's relationship in the present timeline. So I think great job there. Um, but we end up with Claudia and Louis just making it to France. If you read the book, you kind of probably know a little bit of what's going to happen over the season. So I'm pretty excited. I haven't read the book, but I saw the preview of the upcoming stuff for the season, so I won't go into details here. I think you shouldn't be spoiled for that. So yeah, great stuff. Really enjoyed this first episode. I really love this show. I enjoyed season one so much, and I'm very happy that we are back with this. I don't know how far they'll go. I don't know how many of the books they'll cover. I believe from the creators saying at the end of the video, at the end of the show, saying they were trying to cover the whole book in the first season, but I believe they may end up doing it over the course of two seasons. So, from what I gather from the movie, there's still a few things that some key events that need to happen as well. And of course, we are going to see more of Lestat throughout the season at some point. Sam Reed just does such a good job. I really like his performance, and I really enjoyed it last season. So, if you've seen this show, let me know what you thought about it down in the comments. As always, thank you for watching, everyone. Remember to share, like, subscribe, hit the bell so you know when we go live. That is most Saturdays, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. Stay tuned. We have more comic reviews, trailer reactions, TV recaps, all that fun stuff here in the channel. Thanks for watching, everyone.